It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Monday, August 5th, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another week together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we have an exciting podcast for you. We have a Provi in the media, the Sunday message word study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? And yes, it is a wonderful Monday. Yes, I am here in Korea. I arrived here on Sunday early morning. Hope you guys have enjoyed your weekend. How was your Sunday service? How was your weekend? What went on? Just curious and hopeful to see what things have been going on in your life. So leave a comment in the comment section below. Don't forget, on Thursday, it is Q&A Thursday, so get those questions ready. It is every single week. Send it to me whenever you can. And if you haven't yet, please leave a like and comment to build our community. All right, so just really happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title, God, the Holy Spirit, and the Lord all appear when you testify clearly. Okay, so it is Monday, guys. It was a very tiresome, very stressful week that I went through. I would say 4 or 5 days of not enough sleep, I would say. Definitely not enough sleep. I have been struggling to sleep at night. I've been having a little bit of not anxiety or anything like that. It's just a lot of thoughts, especially with I'm sure all of you guys have heard now that I have a new mission that Sunsteam gave me. So I'm very grateful and very thankful for this, but I'm also nervous, excited, and scared at the same time. But also, I need to keep things in reality also. So, I'm not really expecting anything huge or like, oh my gosh, life's about to, I'm going to be this person that's going to change a bunch of things. I'm totally not thinking about that at all right now. So, it's interesting. A lot of deep and interesting conversations over this new mission that I have. And man, it's a long day because I arrived in Korea Sunday early morning, like 6:30 a.m. I took a taxi to the place I'm staying, and then I had service. Then after, I met someone for lunch, and then I took the bus for about 3 hours to get to Wonmyeongdong, and then someone else picked me up, and then I'm settling inside a temporary place right now. So I'm exhausted. And this, think about this. It was last night. It was Saturday night, 11 p.m. flight. I arrive at 6:30 a.m. So, it's pretty crazy, right? So, I'm tired. I'm super tired, exhausted, right? And but there's something I did want to share with you guys. One thing you guys do need to know is, I'm a little bit exhausted. I haven't had good rest right now for 4 days because even on the plane, I just had a hard time sleeping on it. And not because I was thinking deeply, because it's on a plane, right? And like babies crying, and they kept turning on the light so that they can sell like duty-free stuff. I don't know, it was pretty crazy in there. So I slept for about 2 hours, and I haven't slept since then, but I'm tired. And you know that feeling when you're awake, but you're not awake? Like you kind of feel hazy inside your head. That's kind of how I felt all day today. And 2 hours total. The night before was probably 4 hours. The night before that was another 2 hours. It's been pretty nuts. So I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I'm in the area of Wonmyeongdong, and I'm going to try to rest as much as I can because I have my first meetings tomorrow. I know it sounds so corporate, doesn't it? It sounds so corporate. So yeah, it is official. I am now. I think the news came out in Asia like Saturday afternoon, which means it was like Friday night for like the Western countries. So I am now the director of IMD for Western countries, and there will be someone else who is IMD for Asian countries. So there will be kind of like two people leading together and doing two different areas, I guess. Very thankful to everyone who messaged me. And it's kind of funny because many people were like, oh, we're so happy for you, even more than the changes in our own country, right? So I was very grateful and thankful for all the people that wrote all those nice and amazing texts to me. And it really gave me a lot of strength too, because, it's a big mission. And of course, there's a lot of doubt because I've never done it before, right? So what I wanted to do today was I really, really wanted to go over the story, the 4 days of how everything started, okay? So you guys got to know that this is not something that was in the works. It was definitely not in the works, right? It was something that's just happened within 4 days, okay? So, for me not talking about it on Friday, because I wasn't able to talk about it until it was officially announced, which was the day after. So that's why I couldn't really say anything on Friday, but I only knew about it on Wednesday night after Wednesday service. That's when I officially knew, oh my gosh, this is what I'm doing. And that was the night, that night when I found out, I'm like, what? And I couldn't sleep until 8 a.m. I was totally like, my mind was fried, frazzled. I don't know, everything all put together, right? And, Friday was kind of, as I'm so like thinking about this mission, when it came to Friday, that's when I kind of realized to myself, man, this is the end of my stage in Malaysia. And of course, like I said, I wasn't allowed to say anything until it became official. But, this is why I can talk about it now, because it is literally official right now. So today I will be figuring out what my role is. And to be honest, I don't know what the role of IMD Director is. I just don't. And so far what I've heard is very general. So I'm looking forward to get the detailed idea of what it actually is. And I don't know what it is, but I do believe one of the biggest roles is going to be connecting countries to Sunsteam and make sure that Sunsteam knows what is going on and getting the answers that we need. And I would say for myself, I think the biggest advantage I have for Western countries, because I am Western, right? I come from a Western point of view, which is very, very different than Asian countries. And and the one advantage, I guess, is because I kind of speak Korean. Like I speak enough Korean, and parents are Korean, so I kind of know the culture and stuff like that. Even if some things that I may not agree with or I may not like, but I know the culture and stuff like that too. So yeah, I am taking care of English-speaking countries. I guess it's English-speaking or Western countries, one of the two, right? So I'm not sure what that means, because I know that Western countries is probably, for sure, like North America, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, stuff like that too. And then there's other countries that are English-speaking. Like I know Singapore is English and Chinese. I know the Philippines is English and Tagalog, right? And Hong Kong is but it's English and Chinese also. I don't know. I'm not really sure what Western nation, what does it mean to be like an English-speaking nation? But like I said, I will get some more information on it, all right? So I think one of the first things that I do want to figure out is what is my job scope? Like I want to make it very clear about what my role actually is. Like I want a definite job scope. And the reason why I like having a definite job scope, because it gives me boundaries. How far I can go, what's my limitation? Because I don't want to cross and step on other people's toes. And when I have a job scope and I tell everyone this is what my job scope is, then they will have a proper expectation of me. Because I think one of the hard parts is if people don't know the job scope or what your job entails, they're just going to have expectations of what their thoughts of your mission is. You know what I mean? And it causes confusion. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why misunderstandings happen is when there isn't a clear job scope and nobody's certain of how big the role or how small or to what length you can actually go. So I do want to make that very clear for my role too, and I want to be super transparent about that also. So, yeah. Yeah, and especially when it comes to transparency, because you guys know me, right? Transparency, I think, is something that is way more Western than Asian. right? I think this is one of the biggest reasons there are some misunderstandings from Asian countries about my podcast than Western countries. Because Western countries are outspoken. We speak our minds. We want to know what's going on. We don't have to know every single detail, but we want to know what's going on. And we don't mind going against the grain to challenge and make people defend what they believe or what they think, right? And actually, you know what? From my observation, from being in so many countries, I actually think more than a Western, Eastern, like an Asian and Western thing, I actually think it's dependent on people's education or how their education system is. Because the more advanced the education system is, I find that countries with very advanced education have people that are more in line, not more in line, but they have less to disagree about the style of my podcast and how transparent it is. Because if you think about this, I know, like for instance, the people that contact me the most about the podcast, like positively, are Westerners, for sure. Or, and this is the reason why I'm telling you, I think it's more about education, or it's Asians that went to school in the West. Those are the ones that understand me much, much better. So that's why I'm thinking it's more of an education thing, like the education system or style that a certain country has, and that will determine whether someone agrees or disagrees or misunderstands or whatever it is, right? You know, because I would say that the bigger misunderstandings happen from I would say almost all misunderstandings that I've heard has come from Asian countries. Like, I've even heard, like, oh, Pastor Sky has weird thoughts. Oh, Pastor Sky is like, he thinks really strangely about this or that. And for me, I'm just like, in my head, I don't hear that from Western countries. I hear that from Eastern countries, like Asian countries. And I would say it's, if not 99%, it's about, if not 99, it's 100. It's one of the two. Most of the, like, of course, if it's a big mistake that everyone agrees with, of course, I understand those ones. But when it comes to, like, the differences of what people think about the podcast and the content of it, it's very interesting because there is a stark contrast in the way people from the West think about it and people from the East, right? And people from Asian countries. And in the Asian countries, those that were educated in more of a Western style is more in line or more like, I find no problem with it. Like, this is like, it's that stark. Some people would be like, oh, this is wrong. This is totally not what Providence is like. And then the Western people would be more like, oh, this is awesome. Oh, I feel so refreshed. Wow, I can't believe you're talking about this. You know, like, it's such a stark difference, right? And I would kind of say it's more about the difference in education style, I think. There's like education style, level of education, culture of the country, culture of Providence in the country. And that's a totally different subject because I know that the culture of Providence differs from country and in churches too. And I think it does make a huge difference because the culture of Providence inside your country plays such a huge role, right? Some countries I find are more old school, more traditional, more conservative, and other churches are more free, more liberal with the way that they lead and stuff like that too, right? And I'm not saying that, I'm not going to say that, oh, it's the way Koreans lead or something. No, it's totally not like that, right? And I would say that in some countries, the leadership style I've seen is kind of similar to what I faced when I was in America 20 years ago. Like, yeah, it's like 20 years ago that I've seen that same style. But it's, now, for instance, in America, it's much different, right? But 20 years ago, it was like, oh, it's a little bit more conservative, a little bit more strict, right? And more controlling, right? And some countries I've been to, the leadership style is kind of similar to what I've seen in America 20 years ago. That's what, like, I would say. And, it's just different from country to country. Different styles, different cultures plays a big role in this too, right? There's something I did want to talk, like, me talking about the difference in culture and the difference in, like, education and such. I would say that because of what happened last year was huge tribulation. When the huge tribulation comes, things become more pronounced, like people's thoughts. And the thoughts come out more strongly during the times of tribulations. And I would say that that was the year I was able to see the even greater differences, right? Now, remember, this is not about right or wrong. It's more of what fits that country and more of what that country style is. And I thought to myself, is like, yeah, in 2023, because it was such a huge tribulation, you can see, I could see even more clearly the difference in thoughts between the East and the West. It was that clear because the tribulation was that hard and difficult, right? And that's kind of where my thoughts have been coming from. Now, let me get into the story of how I got into this mission, this new mission, okay? Very, very interesting. And I would say that this all happened a week ago, almost a week, about 8 days ago. So what happened was I got a call on, I believe it was a Saturday. And on that Saturday, I get a call, and the call's like, hey, what you doing, right? And it was a friend of mine that I've known for a long time. And they were like, oh, someone's been wondering what you're up to, where you're at. And basically, they wanted to know if you would like to be the IMD director. And I was like, I'm going to give you very honest reaction is, no way. That's my first thought. Of course, I didn't say it out loud, but in my head, I was like, there's no way I'm going to do that position. And I even thought to myself is like, I feel like if I take this position, I am betraying my brand as the rebel pastor who is anti-establishment. How can the anti-establishment pastor become the establishment, right? And it's like, it's kind of crazy when you think about it, because I thought to myself is, what if I become the very thing I'm against? You know what I mean? So, it was, I was like, yeah. And I was like, all right. In my head, I was already thinking, I'm not taking this. I already had that in my head already. That was already in my head. I'm not going to take it. So I already thought that. And I said to myself, it's like, okay, well, I have to be nice, right? So I was like, when do you need an answer by? And they're like, tomorrow, right? So now it's like, I have to give them an answer in 24 hours, which is Sunday. And I was like, man, that's so short though. But then in my head, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to even pray about this. I'm just going to say no the next day kind of thing. Because I'm like, I don't think it's really going to fit me. I don't think it's right. So they said, okay, you got till tomorrow. I was like, all right, it's a short time, but okay. So the next day is Sunday. And on Sunday, I didn't pray about it. Like, it wasn't something that was really big. I was like, oh, I don't think I should take, I'm not going to take this kind of thing, right? And it was Sunday. And I thought to myself is like, you know what? Maybe I should just talk to someone about it, just to see what they think about it. So I talked to someone who I really trust. And I talked to them on Sunday. And I said, hey, I just got a call about an opening in this position as IMD director. What do you think? And interesting, like this is Pastor Nate over there in America. And he said something to me very interesting. He said, I don't know what the will of God is, but I think this is right up in your alley. You've been to so many countries. You know all the leaders. You know this and this. You have a better idea. You're Western thinking, and we need this type of person to be in charge, right? And when I heard that, guess what the thing that really stuck to me? It wasn't about him saying that this would fit me well. The thing that struck me was the very first thing he said is, I don't know what the will of God is, but. And that was really interesting. I was like, wow. The first thing he talks about is the will of God. And I thought to myself is like this. I was like, when I first was, my friend from Korea asked me if I wanted to take the position, the first thought I had is like, no way. But then when I heard my Pastor Nate said to me, he's like, I don't know what God's will is. That's the first thing that struck to me because I'm like, man, you know what? it's not just about me. This is a discussion between me and God. I got to figure out what God's will is, right? And that stuck to me, and it made me feel guilty. Like, you know what? I really got to pray about this. So it was already Sunday night, and I called my friend from Korea, and I said, hey, can you give me another day? Because I really want to, in my heart, I was like, I got to pray. I really have to pray about this. So they're like, okay, we'll give you an extra day, right? So then it was like Sunday night, I prayed about it. And Monday, I prayed about it too. But there's one thing I forgot to tell you. When they were telling me about this position, one of the things they said also struck me in my prayer is when they said, oh, we've put up a bunch of names, like 5 names, like something like 5 names to Sunsteam. But, Sunsteam rejected them, right? The first 5 names. So, and that thing stuck to me too. Now, think about this, if I was really negative about it, the most negative way to think about this would be what? Oh, so I'm the 6th person that you thought about? You didn't even think of me in your top 3 or your top 5. I could have been that negative, but instead, what stuck to me in my prayer was, and this is kind of the kamdong, right? The inspiration I had in my heart is kind of crazy. When I'm praying about it, I'm talking about, God, already 5 people have been denied. And the inspiration in my heart, it was kind of scary to me. The inspiration in my heart was, maybe God's waiting for you. And the reason why that was scary for me, because I thought to myself is, oh man, that means if I apply, I'm going to get it. But I don't want to do it. So if I apply and I get it, gosh, it's going to, I'm like, I don't know if I really want to I don't want to have this type of position, right? So I'm getting scared because in my head, I'm thinking I'm going to get it anyways kind of thing. So it was really weird. I was in that on that Monday, I was going back and forth in my head, the negativity and the positivity and then the prayer here and the thinking here. And I was just going back and forth in my head. It's like, I'm not good at this. But what is God's will? I got to know what God's will. But you know what? I think I'm going to get it. I think God's waiting for me. That's why God rejected the 5, because he's waiting for me. Oh my gosh, but if I get it, what am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to do it. So I was going through this like ping pong battle inside my head. And finally, it was already Monday late night. Like we're talking past midnight already. And I was like, God, am I really going to do this? Am I really going to put my name up for it? And the inspiration where the Holy Spirit's talking to me was, if the will is the most important part, only God knows. Only God knows the will. So the only way you will know the will is if you put your name in. And I was like, dang, I'm really going to put my name in. Ugh. So it was really late. It was like already past midnight. And I sent the text and I was like, put my application. I was like, all right, I'm going to put my name in. And of course, it is really late at night. So obviously they can't, my friend's not going to be answering the text right away. But they answered it in the pre-dawn time, right? And, I was kind of nervous, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So the next day, is now Tuesday, right? And I was like, man, I need to talk to someone else about this. So I called Pastor David. I was like, hey, I just got this offer. What do you think about it? And the crazy part was, he said the exact same thing as Pastor Nate. He said, I don't know what God's will is. And it hit me again. Wow. Yeah. I don't know what God's will is, but he said the same, it fits you the best. Right? And I was like, man, it's just like, when Sunsteam says that, how do you know if a dream is a spiritual dream? Is if the theme repeats itself, right? So I thought to myself, I was like, well, here it is. The exact same thing is being said for the two people. It's almost like it's like some type of confirmation. But still, I was like, is this really it? And Pastor Dave is like, you know what? Let's do a special prayer tonight. Let's do emergency prayer tonight. I'm like, let's do it. And he suggested 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. So this is kind of why. Remember on last week's Wednesday that I missed, I completely forgot about the Rebel Pastor podcast because I was doing that overnight prayer. I was exhausted the next morning. My editors were calling me like, hey, can you wake Pastor Sky up? But I was gone kind of thing because I was so exhausted from it, right? So me and Pastor Baker, we prayed from like 10 to 2. And then, I went to bed. And then the next morning, I woke up a little bit late. And, I started my day. I met a friend of mine. And I was with that friend. And it was like 9:30 p.m. So it was after service. I get the call. And the call is from my friend in Korea. And they're like, they called twice. But eventually what happened was, like, I missed the calls because I was talking to a friend. But I look back and the text message is like, you're approved. And I was like, OMG. And I called my friend back and they're like, oh, isn't it so exciting? You got to respond so quickly. This, and this. Oh, you got the position. And I was just like, and you can't imagine, like, I was totally not ready for this because Wednesday's the fourth day. And they're like, and you got to come to Korea by this weekend. I was like, what? It's Wednesday night? That's Thursday, Friday. So remember, think about it. I took my flight on Saturday night, which is exactly 3 days later, packing up everything that I had. My whole life I moved over, which is actually not that much, guys. It's like one big bag is 26 kilograms. And then the rest of them, I just have a 7-kilogram duffel bag and then my backpack. And that's my whole life. That's literally my whole life, right? So I was sitting there like, oh my gosh. And because of this, when it became official, like Sunseam approved it, I couldn't sleep. I was laying in bed like, oh my gosh, I'm leaving in 3 days. And it's really interesting because I have some friends that are helping me out, like when I was in Malaysia, to help me to get my visa and to help me so that, that I could find an apartment to stay in because I thought I'm going to be in Malaysia for a long time. And I was getting the visa ready. I was getting the apartment ready. And last minute, I just pulled out. No reason. Like, you can ask my friend. My friend was the one that was helping me. All of a sudden, I said, I don't think I'm going to go for the visa. And they're like, no, you should get the visa. There's going to be a benefit to it. I was like, I don't think I'm going to. They're like, really? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to get the visa. And there was no real reason for it. And even when I looked for apartments, remember, apartment has a year contract. But in the end, I didn't get an apartment. I just didn't get it. And I was kind of like sitting there like, whoa, like not even knowing why I didn't get all these things. But now, after all these things are finally completed, I realize it's like, that's why God didn't inspire me to get the apartment. That's why God didn't inspire me to get the visa either, right? There's something else he had in store, something bigger. And that was something that I was very, very thankful and grateful for because, the more and more I look back at all the things that God, remember I told you already that from like a week, remember the week before when I was saying I was getting bored and stuff? Yeah, I was getting bored even before I was asked to get that position. I was just bored kind of thing, right? And it's almost like God heard everything that I was saying. He's like, I gotta put this guy to work kind of thing, right? And now, 3 days later, I'm in Korea. I'm in a temporary place until I get my place, and then I'm going to start my mission starting today with those meetings and greetings and stuff like that too. So it's really crazy, and I'm very, very super shocked. Like super, super, super shocked that I'm actually here. And now that I'm here, I'm going to tell you, I have doubts about myself, and I, part of our defense mechanism in ourselves. You know what I mean? Like we have that defense mechanism in our hearts. Like if this doesn't work out, what am I going to do? And I'm trying to downplay stuff like, oh, come on, Sky, you're self-aware. So if it doesn't fit, just quit. Right? And I'm those are all in my head. I'm just like, because it's so crazy that everything is moved this fast. Like my mom, even when I told my mom, she's like, what? You're moving to Korea? What? Why are you moving to Korea? Right? Because everything is just done so suddenly that even some people in Malaysia, they're like, wait, where are you going? I'm like, Korea, I moved here. They're like, what? You moved to Korea? How did this happen so fast? So yeah, this is kind of like what happened in those 4 days. And then, remember, it's Saturday to Saturday, right? So in that week, I got the call, I got the approval, and I got my ticket, and I moved. And that's all within 4 days to get the mission and 3 days to pack my bags and leave. Right? So, and people are going to say like, oh, but what about your trip to America? Well, if I'm IMD Director of Western countries, it includes America. So I do think that it's going to happen. I do believe it's going to happen. Right? And who knows when it'll happen, but personally, my feeling is I think it'll be a good first trip for the director of IMD. I don't know. But I hope that a lot of these things can be taken care of. And, I don't know. There's just a lot of things that are in my heart and my mind and a lot of things that I am thinking about now. But I think the most important thing right now is just to listen and learn. I don't know the position. I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what Sunseed's expectations are. And I just want to learn and find out what my position is. And from the guidelines that Sunseed gives, I want to figure out what we can do according to those guidelines that's going to fit Western countries also. So once again, guys, very grateful, very thankful to all of you out there who have reached out to me. And I am very grateful and thankful. You guys have, and like I said, I'm not going to be stopping these podcasts. I'm still doing this while I'm here. And Sunseed did approve for me to do the YouTube while doing IMD Director also. So let's just see what happens. And, we'll take it one step at a time. And I'm sure that many of you guys are going to have a bunch of questions and stuff. And, I think I need to, walk cautiously in the beginning, listen and learn as much as I can. And as it moves forward, I'm able to kind of think and maybe help out in different ways too. So, a lot of different things in my heart and my mind. Like I said, I'm a little bit anxious, and I do have that fear of failure too. And I do want to do well, but ultimately, I want to do what the thing that will satisfy the Holy Trinity. And what is the thing that I need to do that's going to satisfy the Holy Trinity to do this mission the best, right? And yes, I know that Chris Jansen's probably going to write a comment that he's going to say, oh, you traitor, you went to the establishment. And, I understand. So Chris Jansen out there, if you want to do a Provicom on me, go ahead. I am looking forward to that Provicom too. Either way. All right. So that's what I wanted to share about today. Hope it's something that you guys were able to just understand the full situation. It was abrupt and sudden, and it's something that I wasn't expecting either, but very, very grateful and thankful that for all your prayers. And I think from this point on, I do need your prayers even more going forward, because it's a big responsibility, and it's something I do think we need to something that we can work on together with all the Western or English-speaking countries too. All right, so there it is, guys. This is one of the things that the Western countries were super thankful of is that I am super Western. I am super, super Western, so I'm able to give a very different point of view to Sunseed and help Sunseed to understand the Western countries a lot better too. Either way, so that's my story. Hope it's something that really helps you guys to understand what I went through the last week. I am crazy exhausted at the moment, but I do know that I'm going to get a lot of rest, get some good prayer in the morning too. All right? So yeah, that's segment 1 for today. Hope it's something that you guys really enjoyed and gained a lot of understanding and insight of what just happened the last week, which means we will get into, we have the Sunday message word study, but before that, let's get into the first music break of the day.
Yeah, rise up to the challenge, armed with the word in action, belt to the truth, fasten, shield of faith in one hand, sword of the spirit I'm slaying, no mercy I'm praying, everyone thinks I lost, but now I'm turning Super Saiyan, I gotta be new, gotta be great, I only gotta win this thing, fixing mistakes, fix who I am, all I wanna do is change, gotta be brave, gotta be tough, no more time for delaying, it's just training, all those times of pain, off, pushing my limits, only with God, I'm trying to be better, I'm trying to feel God, enemies watching, they want you to fall, but you have to be better, you have to give it your all, every day I make myself, but I know it's not easy, this is the life I chose and I know my spirit's breathing, the battle has only begun and I may take damage, but if I fall, all I know how to do one thing, rise up to the challenge, armed with the word in action, belt to the truth, fasten, shield of faith in one hand, sword of the spirit I'm slaying, no mercy I'm praying, everyone thinks I lost, but I'm turning Super Saiyan, I'm Goku turning Super Saiyan, I'm charged up, now I'm playing, on the mount like Sinai, I connect with God like Wi-Fi, receive the word, always praying, spiritual path where I'm staying, everyone thinks I lost, but I'm always with him, so you know I'm prevailing, protecting myself from Satan, armed with the truth, now my angels will shoot like, now I'm at my truest form, I'm trying to really be the greatest, the power level can't contain it, my energy is never draining, look how far we have made it, unlocking levels never hesitated, there's no try, you either just do it or don't, so fix your thoughts instead, everybody makes mistakes, just gotta take notes, can afford to do it again, life is so easy, if you just do what is right and just follow what's real, victory comes through skill, gotta stay on course, time to kill. Time to rise and shine, thinking of the past and never forget. Grounded Lord, by your side, holding your hand, dry your eyes, trust in the Lord every night and day. He'll never let you go, don't fall away. Be bold, be brave, and with all your heart, love the Lord to the end of time. Rise up to the challenge, armed with the word in action, held to the truth, fasten, shield of faith in one hand, sword of the spirit I'm slaying, no mercy I'm praying, everyone thinks I lost, but I'm turning Super Saiyan.
All right, so let's get into today's Sunday message word study, and a very hungry message it was. God, the Holy Spirit, and the Lord all appear when you testify clearly, and I think just the title alone is pretty powerful. The Holy Trinity, the Lord all appear when you testify clearly, which means in order for us to testify clearly, we need to know clearly too, right? So let's get into the Sunday message. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm going off like 4 days of just very minimal sleep. And yeah, I'm not even sleeping at the right time. I'm not even sure what time I'll sleep today because tomorrow will be my first day at work. Sounds like a job, right? But yeah, I'm going to try my best to sleep early tonight. So let's start off with the retreats. So I did get the retreat theme, right? So very big thank you to all the people out there who sent me that retreat theme. And the retreat theme is see, learn, and preach. Or you can say testify. So see, learn, and testify. Something along that line. All right. So when you hear this message, you can see that, this is the theme of the retreats now for the summer retreats. And I hope you guys will look forward to it. I can't wait for tomorrow, but I know I have a meeting at 11 and 3, but I'd really want to see the Milky Way. I think that's going to just be so cute to see all the kids out there and stuff like that too. Hopefully there'll be some kids that I know that I miss a lot from when I was here at the Lord's Church. Like all the way until like 2015. I can't wait. I hope I get to see them too. Either way, all right? So one thing that Sunsteam did say about the retreats, there's like 3 things that you should gain from it, right? And the first thing is learn what history happens when things are made clean. All right? So obviously we're going to Wolmyeongdong and we get to see that's like the ultimate example of a place being made clean and the history that happened from making it clean. And then you see what Wolmyeongdong looks like right now, right? The second thing through the retreats you should see is the history and origin of Providence. And last but not least, learn about your value and realize it even more. And I think that all, and this is something that I think it all ties together. Because when you realize about Wolmyeongdong, the history that happened because it was made clean, then you see how Providence was actually originated. Through that, you're going to realize that you are someone who has been made clean, that you are someone that should be highly valued, and we have to realize it even more so. This will allow all of us to become people who will testify for the time period, right? And I think that's a big thing that all of us really want to do, right? So the title is God, the Holy Spirit, and the Lord all appear when you testify clearly, right? So Sansim was giving a lot of testimonies of what God did in his life. And one of the things that I thought was kind of cool is when Sansim was telling the story of him writing the book, right? There's a book that, what was the name of the book that he was writing? It says, the book was Absolute God Who Saved Me from Death, right? And it's basically Sansim talk about the, like, more than 60 times that God saved his life during the Vietnam War, right? And at one point, something was very, very interesting was while Sansim is talking about this story, and then there's someone who's dictating the message, right? And this person who is dictating the message saw a vision. What was the vision? Okay. Where was it? Oh yeah. So the person who was typing the message, dictating the message, basically, God showed his form to this person and said, I saved him, and appeared in a radiant form wearing a white robe that covered his feet. The light from his face was so bright that his form was not visible, only the light was visible, right? And this is while this person is dictating the book, right? And later, this person says, oh my gosh, this is what I saw. And Sansim's like, you saw God. And then Sansim's kind of like, well, why did you tell me immediately, right? That God had come. And this person said, I couldn't tell you because you were in the spiritual world with your eyes closed, caught up in telling me what to write and was focused on writing. And, this is when Sansim has that conversation with God is like, hey, when you came, why did you appear only to the person who was typing and not me? And God's answer is interesting. It's like, it's much clearer when it's shown through the witness. You know that I, God, saved you. But the witness who is typing into the computer doesn't know. It wouldn't be okay to let someone who doesn't know type it into the computer, right? So what God is saying here is like, think about it. Sansim is absolute. He is so absolute that God has saved him. So he is absolute. However, the witness needs to be absolute too. This person's writing down the story and they have to be just as absolute as you. And that's why I needed to show this person first, right? And this kind of shows us too that, the importance of the witness also. Because when you think about a witness, why is a witness so important? Because it's hard for people to believe if you're just talking about yourself. If you just testify only about yourself, what's going to happen? You testify only about yourself, and then people are just going to think, oh, this person's making it up. However, if you have a witness there that says, no, I was there. I saw this person do it. What happens? It gives validity to the person, right? I think in Korean, there's a saying like a monk cannot shave its own head, which means that someone else has to shave it, which means people can't just talk about themselves. They sound arrogant and people might think, may not believe them, right? However, if someone else testifies for you, this person becomes more valid. And that's why when you really think about our role as a witness of this history, the witness is that important. We shouldn't be just saying to people like, oh, come listen to the message. We need to testify about the one that God has sent. Because remember, what's the order? The witness. We testify for the one that is sent. And the one that is sent testifies for God. Right? That's the system it's supposed to be working. Right? We need to be, this is how proper and important the witness is. And especially understanding that our time is what? We're in a time where we get to witness on him, and we all witness different things about him, and we all have to become great witnesses. Now, I know that some people might misunderstand this and just start like saying everything about Sunseam to people out on the streets, but it also needs to be done with wisdom. So let me give an example of what wisdom is. If you're just a regular person out on the street, right? Do you think your point is going to be valid to these people? And the answer is probably not. However, if you make yourself, if you become great at something, say like you become a great doctor, and then you talk about Sunseam, your points become more powerful, right? That's another wise way of doing it, right? And it's something that we do have to think about. We do have to be wise about too, but it's something that we can't just be like, oh no, Sunseam said we have to be witnesses, so we got to go out and do all this witnessing right now. No, we have to do it properly, right? Like even when you look at Sunseam's, like I think storytelling is such an important tool. You gotta have the storytelling in your tool belt. Why? Because a lot of the testimonies that Sunseam gives, it's like a movie. Like how many times have you heard like Sunseam talk about the Vietnam story? An enemy was aiming his rifle at him, and then he hears God's voice to love him and stuff. Like we've heard that so many times, but it's how we tell it that's going to get people so involved into that. Like, oh my gosh, what happened next, right? These are all things that could be made into movies, right? And I think that's something that we have to realize is, yeah, Sunseam's telling these stories, but Sunseam, that's his story. He knows it really well. But we have to be those that are able to testify for him really well too. Sometimes it's not just telling the story of Sunseam. It's telling a story of yourself first. Like a testimony that you went through, right? Something that happened to you, how God saved you, where people say, wow, that's crazy. And then after that, you can talk about Sunseam too. Because now people are going to be like, okay, this guy's legit. And then after that, they'll listen to the things that you say, right? There's this one point in the first video. I thought this was really meaningful for me, and I think for a lot of people too, because even for me in this mission, there's a lot of thoughts I have. I'm worried, right? But God says in that first video, I have created all things in heaven and earth and all humanity. No matter what you experience, don't worry. I am with you and will take action to the end, loving you and the time period. Whether they are big things or small things, do everything that has my will in it. And it's just it's just such a big relief that God is like, hey, don't worry. I've created all things, including you. Don't worry. I'll take care of them, right? Don't worry. I am with you. I'll take action together with you, right? Doesn't matter if it's big or small, okay? So for me, it was very comforting to hear that in the Sunday message also. And it's comforting because, it's like what the message said. We're not perfect. We're not all powerful. We fail in so many things, small and big, right? We fail even the small things that we can do, and we definitely fail the things that are too big for us. But it's God telling us, hey, I know you're not absolute, but I'm going to be with you. We're going to do it together. If you fail, just, repent and let's move forward, right? So, it's a very comforting thing where God is like, entrust it to me. Be one with me, right? Always do things. God, I'm always doing things for you, whether it's big or small, because you can't do it yourself. Rely on me. Don't rely on people. And I think that's a very big thing is sometimes we turn to people rather than turning to God first too, right? And, the one thing about people is when you ask for advice, it's not their work. So they're not as invested in it, right? And even if they give you advice, they're not going to be the ones that help you with it. But if God entrusts you with the work, because it's his work that he entrusted you with, it's God is going to help you. We have to absolutely do things really well. And then, we have to be very thankful about this too. So yeah, it's something that I really, really am grateful and thankful that we got such a message at this time, right? And I think the one part that the message addressed that I thought, it pops up in our heads every once in a while too, is when Sanjeev said even righteous people sometimes think or say things like, "Oh, God's actions are perfect, but since a righteous person is suffering, that means it's not God's will," right? And then they say, they'll be like, "Well, Jesus was the Savior, but why did God let him suffer like that? Why did God let the righteous suffer so much and let the wicked flourish?" And this makes the people on the righteous side kind of get really upset, distressed about being victimized by the wicked, and even become resentful, right? So, and I think it even comes to the point where people will say that the person sent by God is suffering because he sinned. And, this reminded me of something that Sanjeev said in the past is many times people will think others are sinners because they are a sinner, right? It's like projection, right? They'll say that, "Oh, you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this." And they think they're saying all these bad things about this person, and they're accusing them of doing all these bad things, but it's because they project their life onto others. And it's not anything different because remember, we didn't know the sins of what happened in 2023. We didn't know what sins were going on. We had no clue, right? And because we had no clue about those sins, and we thought that, say, KJS was righteous, to hear her say that kind of gave more validity and more power to it. But later, when you hear about all the things that actually happened, you realized, this is why this person accused Sansim of this, because they were doing it, right? Because that very person accusing was the one that had that sin, right? And this is one of the things that we can't let Satan come into our hearts and just think to yourself is like, "Oh, well, if you're righteous, you wouldn't suffer." Where when you look at the Bible, it's actually the opposite. It's the righteous that suffer. Jesus bore the cross because he was a sinner? No, because he died on behalf of others. He wasn't being whipped and flogged and beaten because of sin, because of other sin that he was dying for. But it's the criminals that say he's a criminal. It's the sinners that say he's a sinner. And, if they knew, they wouldn't say it, but they're just assuming by looking at their own lives, right? And I don't think it's look at the Bible. That the theme is so common about the righteous paying for the sins of the wicked. I love the example in Ezekiel chapter 4 because we use this verse a lot in Times, and Half a Times, where Ezekiel was asked to lie on his right side for Israel for 40 days to bear the sins of Israel, right? The prophets did this, and so did the Messiah. So, God's not considering them sinners just because the world is saying that they're sinners, right? So that is something that we do have to keep in mind and recognize also, right? So, there's another point that I really like too. What it said, it's talking about how God only allows the person who's sent to know. Like, what does that mean? It basically means that if God doesn't permit people to know, not a single person will know. Not even of all the 8 billion people, they're not going to know. God will only tell the person that has been sent. There's only one, right? And, we've seen this so many times in history. Like the one I remember the most in America was 9/11, where Sunseem talked about it a year and a half before it actually happened, right? And what's even crazier is that story where Sunseem said that there was someone who read Revelations 200,000 times, but still never got it. Why? God did not break the seals. It's only to the one that he sends, right? Oh, I was once again moved by the same thing, since he brought it up again, is the words I heard most often from God in the past 4 to 5 years. So think about this, guys. 4 to 5 years is 2020 to now, right? What's the thing that says you've heard the most from God? Don't worry. Don't worry. And, I think that's the one thing that we do the most is worry, because we don't know. And, that's why when it comes from a person, if a person says don't worry, it's hard to really take it in because they don't have the power to help you. But if it's God saying to us, don't worry, I will be with you. I'll be with you. Don't worry about it. It's different. And I like how Sansim said, even if God couldn't do something for me right away in reality, his voice came to me deeply, even just to comfort me. I was so thankful, and that is how kind his words were. And, how Sansim explains how God speaks is like, it's not like people. When God speaks to us, the kindness of his heart that's conveyed with his words are so moving that it makes you become determined to really do something for God. And it makes you, it conveys to your heart like God will really do this for you. And I think it's something where I think a lot of us have had that moment where when we've heard God say to us, don't worry, I'll be with you. I will do everything for you because you are mine. It's my work, isn't it? Don't worry, I'll take care of it. But in exchange for this, do my work for me. Do it with all your life for the sake of the lives, right? And I looked at that, I was like, man, that's really inspiring. It really is. I was like, wow. It would make you want to pray just to hear those words so your heart will be comforted, right? So I hope it's something that we'll all be able to hear in those dark times, especially what's happening nowadays too, right? When people are like, oh, what's happening with the trial? God says, don't worry. So then we got into more of the points of testifying, right? The Holy Trinity, God and the Holy Spirit and the Lord will be with you when you testify clearly, right? So the message is telling us is that when we testify for the word, when we testify for the word, this is when most people get evangelized. When you testify for the word, signs happen and the gospel spreads to families, nations, and the world, right? So like healing happens, you'll see signs in nature, the tide stopping, like in Malaysia and also in Korea, the sign of rain in times of drought, typhoons stopping, thousands of lives returning in a day. This all happened when Sansi was testifying for the time period through the word. And I think this should make us really think deeply is the person being testified for is the happiest when you testify. God will show his power through you as much as we know the one who's being testified for. So this is kind of a sad thing that was in the message. If Jesus' followers testified for him well during his generation and everyone realized on their own that Jesus was the one they waited for, and if they followed and knew, why would they kill him on the cross? They killed him because he did not know. But if you take one step back, it's because Jesus' followers did not testify for him well. And this is why people did not realize on their own. And that is a stinging message to all of us, right? That's a stinging message to all of us. And that's why at Jesus' generation, remember what the disciples were asking Jesus, like, when is the end of the tribulation? When is the end of this tribulation for Israel? Jesus knew, but he knew that it would be resolved only after the people paid fully for the sin of killing the Messiah. That's when it's going to be fulfilled. That's when they'll get out of that torment. And I think this is why we have to realize how much we really need to testify. We really need to testify well. That's why Jesus, what was the final thing he said? Be my witnesses to the ends of the earth. It's through testimony that people know. It's through testimony people see power. Even someone who is going to die will not die if they are testified for well. Some people are looked at as criminals because they were not testified for. Who does that sound like? People are seen as criminals. Who's being seen as a criminal right now? It's Sunstein. So they're not, but they're seen as one because they are not testified for. The reason people see them as criminals even after being testified for is because they themselves have committed such sins. Right? Jesus asked them to be witnesses before he left. This is the only way that both Jesus and us will succeed on the earth and prosper is when we testify. And that's when the gospel actually spread that powerfully. When? It was after. It was after people testified properly, right? This is when the gospel spread to the ends of the earth. And, one of the things that we can say that Sunstein says all the time is, during the time of tribulations, why do people leave? And the answer is because their faith wasn't perfect. And that's kind of an honest answer, don't you think? Faith wasn't perfect. That's why people leave. It doesn't matter what you did in the past. It's about what you do right now. Because what you do now, how you do right now will determine whether all those things in the past are still worth anything. You know what I mean? So I hope that all of us can live the life and live the perfect life of faith. And we can kind of see that those of us who remain kind of have that type of faith. So I hope that all of us listen to what Sunstein says, because he's teaching us correctly. So we can know correctly. We can believe correctly. Then we receive the power from believing correctly. Then we receive proper salvation. Then we receive the blessings from God. And then we can testify. Then we can testify. And I hope it's something that all of us can really understand that well too. Remember when Sunstein was talking about reading the Bible and such? I think it's an important thing for all of us too. He said when he'd read the Bible, he would read and memorize the key verses and continually ask and pray during regular times also. And I was like, that's one of the keys. You need to memorize the Bible, like the key verses of the Bible. I think that's one of the things that all lecturers must do. Memorize key verses of the Bible. That is absolutely key, I think. Right? There's so many great parts in the Bible, so many ways we can testify, so many ways we can evangelize. It's just that we don't know the Bible well. We don't know what to say. And I think that's one thing I do want to try to figure out for myself. Like, what would be a good training program for people so that they can evangelize well on campus, when they can go out and meet people and stuff like that too? Because I think that's something that will be very beneficial also, right? So when it comes to the word, Sunstein actually gave us 4 key things, right? The ultimate key things we need to know. Number 1 is resurrection. That lecture is that important. Why? Because the resurrection is spiritual, not physical. And that's something that is absolute, because people are waiting for Jesus to come back physically, but he's coming back spiritually. And that's why this resurrection lesson is that big. Second thing is fire. Judgment of fire, we know it's the judgment of the word, right? God is judging through the word, right? So there's a second lesson is judgment of fire. So here's 2 huge lessons, resurrection and fire. Third one, of course, it is the rapture. That has to do with the resurrection. Rapture is the last resurrection, but we need to teach the resurrection powerfully. And it's about us, the body, receiving the new time period. That is the rapture. And it's the spirit that goes to heaven. And the secret of the rapture is what? Love. Rapture is love, right? This is the key point of rapture. It's about love because God is love. Jesus is love. The ideal world, everything is about love, right? And last but not least, it is God's will, which is the purpose of creation. We need to know that lesson really well. And that was fulfilled after Jesus' second coming. Of course, that was done in the day of the rapture, right? Together with the one that God sent and the chosen people of the time period, we were able to fulfill the purpose of creation, right? So those are the four things we need to have, right? Those are four powerful: resurrection, judgment of fire, rapture, and the purpose of creation. Those are the four. So I hope that all of us will be able to at least review those and go over it. Those of you guys who want to review even more of it, guys, go ahead, check out the Patreon. And in Patreon, I have all four of those lessons anyways. You can just listen to them whenever you want also, right? I like this because remember when Sunsi tells us to testify about the things in the past too, right? And what God said is, God gives you conviction while telling you about the things you experienced in the past. So God tells you, just as that work was done miraculously in the past, it will be done miraculously this time too, right? So you're going to get, isn't it so true that when you testify about things in the past, the feeling comes back? But what God is telling you is, just as it happened back then, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. In the same way, it's going to happen, right? So God is telling all of us that just as He has done so many things for us in the past, those miraculous things will be done for you again in this time right now. So don't worry and move forward with thankfulness. Move forward with thankfulness, right? So I hope it's something that we can just recognize. Find a time to testify to your brothers and sisters or to your family or friends, because it's through those testimonies we realize even more how much God is going to work again in our life, right? And, don't think that just because it's going to become difficulty, there's tribulations, persecution, hardships, they're all coming right now. Don't think that God's not going to do it just because those hard times are coming. He's going to do it even more. This is the 1,000-year history that God wants to show the miracles and signs happen. And I love how Sunsim said, people too, He raised and prepared all people in advance. If someone disbelieves and leaves after carrying out this history, a replacement person will come right away. God will surely do it because this is the history of the Almighty and all-knowing God. And I know that some people might be a little bit emotionally damaged, right? Is when it's like, wait, if I leave, God's just going to replace me with someone better? Oh, I feel so sad that I'm replaceable. And the answer is, you're only replaceable is if you leave. And we have to think about this. God's history is bigger than one person. How do I know this? Look at what happened last year. We thought that this big person like KJS leaving was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to Providence? And the answer is, Providence is a history. This is God's history. It is far bigger than just one person. Far greater. It would be kind of arrogant to say that, oh, I'm irreplaceable. And the answer is, no, you're not. You're not irreplaceable, right? God will surely do it because it's the history of the Almighty and all-knowing God, right? And guys, during this time of tribulation, God's going to show us blessings. He's going to show us blessing. God's not going to stop working just because it's difficult. It's actually interesting because what the message says is when times are difficult, it's actually easier for God to work in secret. And that's why God has done many things, because everyone is just so worried and freaked out about the the tribulations. God is doing so many things that we haven't seen. Right? So I hope that, later in the future, we're going to see a history book of the last 46 years of Providence. And I think it's going to be so shocking when we hear all the things that actually happened. Remember, this is God, the Almighty God that is doing all these things, not a human being. There are so many things that happen we know nothing about, right? Only Sunseam knows about because it's all based around him, right? So I hope that all of us will live knowing clearly, because the moment we don't know, think about it. We live such a, for someone in my shoes, and the people, many people are in the same shoes as me. We burned up our youth for this history. But if we live without knowing, we end up complaining and leaving. And all of our merits disappear and such too. We have to know, live knowing clearly. And I like this one point here when it talks about God's will. So, a lot of times God's will is so big, it requires us to work with other people. But if you know it's God's will, then you have to become one with that other person, work together, like a right and left shoe. Become one, right? One of you becomes the outside, one of you becomes the inside kind of thing, right? So, I think it's something that that we have to take into consideration. What is the will? I thought this something was very funny. When do you remember when the message is talking about Elijah was a hairy man and John the Baptist was a hairy man? They were similar. They were both hardliners, right? Like their character was that strong. It's always the case that a person with a similar character comes in the new time period and works united with them. And I'm going to tell you this, guys. My older brother, is a hairy man. And I'm going to tell you, he's a hardliner too. Like he had a temper and stuff also, but I just thought about my brother, I thought it was hilarious when it says hairy men are hardliners kind of thing, right? And then, speaking of Elijah, Sunseam also said that at the time of Jesus, John the Baptist, the witness got confused, even after testifying so strongly. And Sunseam kind of talks about what happened last year, that he really urged her to be next to him and learn from him so that she can know correctly and testify properly. And the key point there is what God said to Saul through Samuel is, obedience is better than sacrifice. It's over if you don't obey. Yeah, everyone who does not obey goes down their own path. And because Sunseam obeys until the end, that's why God and the Holy Spirit take him wherever he goes, right? So I hope that we can also be people who will be obedient, right? That we will be those that are always doing things together with the Lord constantly. And when we get the guidelines, I'm not saying to disobey. What I'm saying is don't disobey, but take the guidelines and try to make it happen. Like that's why even when I think about, when we get guidelines, the guideline is going to be done differently for one country compared to another. But it's the same guideline, but the culture and the difference of that country is going to make the outcome look a little bit different from the next, right? So I'm not saying disobey. I'm saying no, find the guideline, and from there we'll be able to find what is right, right? So in this time period, what's the last thing that I want to bring up for you guys? What Sunseam said, 5 things. In this time period right now, number 1, testify about what has been done. So when I was in Malaysia, testify about the tide stopping. When I was in Malaysia, testify about, what Sunseam did over there, right? Testify about what God has done to get the church building. Testify for all the things that have been done, right? Secondly, in this time period, show videos of recordings of the signs of history. Great. Third, show people the healing of the sick. Great. Fourth, show the things that were done by God's instructions. And last but not least, number 5, tell people about the miracles that have been performed until now for 46 years, right? So this is something that every country should be working on, right? We should have these testimonies that people can, where people will be able to see also, all right? So let's all be wise in our testimonies. Don't just go, don't go buck wild just testifying about every single thing where it may not make sense. Wisely testify about the things that were done, right? Then power and signs will appear. So testify about the things that has changed you and the things that you have done too, right? Make those testimonies. Only then will God, the Holy Spirit, and the Lord receive that testimony and appear. So I hope that all of us will do things until the end. We're already here. We've already gone through the most difficult time from last year. And I hope that we can be those that know absolute, be that clear, so that we can also be the ones that will be able to testify properly about the Lord. Okay? All right, so there it is, guys. That is the Sunday Message Word Study. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. Have any questions or comments, put that below. And yeah, let's move into the last music break of the day.
2023. We've all come a long way. Many different stories, but we're all on the same journey. Many, many ups and downs, but we're all still around. Many, many, many lessons, but each one came with a blessing. Let's not forget for where we come from when we make this confession. Some people just want to watch the world burn. As for you and I, let's set ourselves on fire, shine a light so bright that will make the people say, burning life, burning life. Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life, burning life. Who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones. We're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say, born sinner, never could be iller. No, I'm back from the dead, yeah, the Lord is my healer. I took the red pill, that's why I call him teacher. When you learn about the spirit, oh, there ain't nothing realer. The one you learn from determines your entire destiny. Learn from the one who taught about eternity. Cloud craving, paper chasing, the joy is only temporary. I don't wanna do the same thing, so I hard to count the vanity. I keep my eyes on the prize. I'll never sell my soul to the devil in disguise. With both hands on each side, I'm holding on to dear life. I keep my guard up, never back down. When it goes down, I call on the Christ. Spiritual battle, answer the call. It's Call of Duty, modern warfare, put the armor of God. They're fighting Lucy with a rock. I got atomic bombs, love the Lord your God and know your brothers once the demons fall. Don't be deceived, know who the ops is. Keep the unity and peace, go far way across this. Came to preach the word of God like I'm born in Tarsus. Here to testify the things I've seen on road to Damascus. He's the real deal, the real thing. Be glad you heard the King's speech. Blessed are those who reach the end and get to hear the Lord speak. GODs, POC, we fulfilled everything. Burning life, kerosene, burning life, legacy.
You will never see me stop in the future. The life that fulfills God's will continue. Everyone thinks I'm unfortunate because I go through suffering. But inside of me it's different. Because I walk the path of eternal life.
Burning life, burning life. Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life, burning life. Who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say,
like Mary poured out her perfume on Jesus' feet, I must pour out my heart, mind, and love on the one who saved me.
Okay, so let's get into our final segment for today, which is Provi in the media. And right now, we're kind of in a lull between the trials, because the next trial is not until the end of this month. I think the 22nd and the 25th. So that is something that we do need to pray for, as we have another condition starting right now for all the month of August. Also, that other trial, the other trial that's going on is on September 5th, I believe. But I hope that you guys will really much enjoy this time that you have in the retreats. Keep praying for Sunseam as much as you can. And, if more things come up, I'll let you guys know. And, so there's nothing new to show right now, but I hope you guys are continuously praying well for Sunseam at this time during the month of prayer for August. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the end of today's Monday podcast. Hope you guys super awesome enjoyed it as much as I have. Have an amazing first day of the week, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this.